welcome to the Votewatch End of Year Awards. It's been a bumper 2024 as we head into 2025, and I am joined tonight by Steven Barrett, Lee Harris, and Gabriele Montone for the End of Year Awards. Who's been your hero of the year? Who's been the villain of the year? The best political moment that destroyed someone's career, and the Stay in 2024 award. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Happy New Year, obviously. I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. We can kick this straight off. Hero of the Year award. And also, drumroll, please. We do have a trophy this time. Rachel from Accounts tried her best to take it from me, but I said no. Steven, let's come to you first for your Hero of the Year nomination, please.
I don't think that we praise normal people enough. So my hero of the year is Olive, who lives locally and has run the guides for 40 years. And I'm going to add in the nice lady Anita, who runs the brownies and has run that for decades, and Anita's mum, who's too old to run anything, but she does all the knitting for the brownies. So we have a little owl, knitted owl, and all the brownies have knitted poppies every year. Those are what I consider to be heroes. And that's, they've given of themselves to their community year after year after year for very little reward and making the lives of children better. And that's what a hero is, as far as I'm concerned.
See, you've instantly won this, because none of us can take this away from the guides and the brownies and Anita's mum.
Yeah,
thanks, lovely. Stephen. What a waste of time. Anyways, okay, Lee, good luck. Who's been your Hero of the Year nomination?
Well, maybe I'll get away with this because mine is more political Hero of the Year. And for me, hands down, no one even comes close to this. It has to be Reform MP Rupert Lowe. And for me, he's just been a massive breath of fresh air. This is a man who I would consider a true patriot, who just oozes common sense. And what I found so both intriguing, inspiring, is just the way that he holds government to account. Probably better than I've ever seen any MP do it. This kind of constant pressure that he's able to put on the government to get facts and figures. For example, on mass immigration, illegal immigration, he's pressured them on the size of the state with all of these quangos. He's defended the farmers. I mean, he's basically managed to touch every single subject that I think is important to ordinary Brits, and spoke both brilliantly and eloquently on it. For me, he is a clear winner. He's Prime Minister material. I think he's a huge asset to reform. And to be honest, I think other MPs are jealous of the way that he's able to handle himself, both on mainstream media, when we've seen him do interviews on both the BBC, when he can talk truth to the BBC while he's on the BBC, which is utterly awesome, but both on independent media as well, when he's been doing podcasts, where you really can drill down in these kind of long form interviews about what his real views are. And for me, he's just a standout because he, more than anyone else that I've ever come across in British politics, there are a couple that come close, and I'd probably put Nigel Farage into a similar bracket, but someone who is able to understand the concerns of ordinary Brits and make their, represent their views in Parliament. And for me, he is without a doubt the hero of 2024.
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting nomination, because a lot of people would say that Reform have been all talk in 2024, but 2025 is the year where they're going to start winning seats and getting that momentum behind them and stuff like that. I mean, Gabriele, I saw your face light up when Lee nominated Rupert Lowe. Was that out of admiration and agreement, or is there something more behind that?
I mean, well, you say he's been really good at holding the government to account. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but the Conservatives aren't in government anymore. It's Labour. So I wish they would hold Labour to account.
Yes, very true.
And also for Stephen's point, I mean, yeah, the ordinary people is we live in a democracy, guys. It's a democracy, and it was the ordinary people that didn't turn out to vote for the Conservatives, and they gave us the Labour government. So, they have to share.
Conservatives gave us the Labour government. We can't vote to reward failure.
Yeah, well,
that comes on to one of my nominations later about rewarding failure. But anyways, Gabriele, who is your hero?
You're really not gonna like my nomination.
Go on. Who's your hero of the year?
It's going to be Rishi Sunak. Um,
Really?
He was handed a really bad deck of cards after, what was it, over a decade of austerity, rising inflation, and I think he did the best with it. And he's probably the best last Conservative leader we could have asked for from that government. I mean, you tell me who could have done a better job. So yeah, unfortunately,
literally anybody who decided not to call an election, that for me is, I mean, he should have lost his job.
But who then? Who in the Conservative Party could have done a better job?
Anybody. You could have got literally anybody.
Name one.
Well, betterly Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman.
But they never put their names in for leader.
Absolutely, any of them.
Oh, well, that's the problem. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? We can look back and go, the election should never have been called, should have waited longer, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, you've given a really difficult 3 heroes of the year. I feel bad if I, as a local councillor, start telling the ordinary people of the Guides and the Brownies that they aren't the number one people in local communities. So I'm really sorry, guys, but I am going to give Olive, Anita, and Anita's mum the Hero of the Year award.
Congratulations.
It's a constitutional point I'm going to be returning to, but we need volunteers. We are a volunteer-based country.
No, we do. And, if I was going to nominate Hero of the Year, it would be all of the low-level people in politics, all of the, volunteers, members, local councillors, people who aren't MPs, because so often do the MPs get all the attention and create a lot of the problem, and then it's a lot of other people everywhere else who have to pick it up. So, if I was going to nominate anyone, it would be sort of ordinary-ish people. But I guess none of us involved in politics are genuinely ordinary.
I think Reform was called that the deep state. But...
we will have to get you on for a head-to-head about Reform in the deep state. And Lee, I think you might be biting at the chance for that. So we'll get Lee and Gabriele up against each other. Right, our next award is the Villain of the Year award. We're going to go in reverse order this time. Gabriele, who's your Villain of the Year?
My villain has to be, and it's not British, but it's tangentially related. In regards to Reform, the Villain of the Year has to be Elon Musk.
And why?
For what he did in America and what he's trying to do in the UK with Reform as a party. It's sort of this is the very business collusion globalist stuff that these guys on the far right have been worried about. And now, because Elon is echoing their beliefs, they want to they support him. They turn a blind eye to the sort of collusion going on. I mean, if you want to look at America, which I take personal interest in, I write the article for the US politics article for Votewatch every now and then. But if you want to look at America, I think it's really worrying that we have big business in bed with the government, a business that receives a lot of subsidies from the government and now is in the ear of high-ranking members of the executive, especially the president.
Lee, I can see you shaking your head. Do you want to come back on that?
Well, I just can't believe you're picking someone that is advancing human civilization. This is a man who has, I'm sure we all remember the incredible scenes that we saw where he caught a rocket that came down from Earth's atmosphere, and he just caught it with what looked like some chopsticks. He has done more than any other person on the planet in terms of bringing down emissions, in terms of the electric car market. With regards to the point you make, because I'm being slightly cruel in as much as I'm picking things that he has genuinely furthered our civilization for. But with regards to your point, I take your point. The way I view this is, as long as what he is doing is legal, and I'm talking about both what he's doing in the States and what he's hopefully going to do with reform, as long as what he's doing is legal, I think that this is a man who has stood up relentlessly for freedom of speech. He has stood up against the authoritarianism of Keir Starmer, and he isn't afraid to speak his mind. This man is a man that I used to actually not dislike, but I didn't think much of him. But over the last couple of years, 3 years, since he spent $44 billion buying Twitter at the time, now X, off of leftists who were, without a doubt, as we've all seen from the Twitter files, colluding with the government and the FBI, who basically just had a room in Twitter's offices, deciding who they would and wouldn't censor. I think this man has done more for for freedom of speech, both in the US and in the UK, than possibly any other person. I couldn't admire Elon Musk more.
I'm surprised he wasn't your Hero of the Year nomination.
He was close to being on my list. I wanted to keep it as UK based as possible. But you know, the way he spoke out against Starmer during the summer riots was absolutely phenomenal.
Gabriele, I'll come back to you one quick time, and then we'll move on to others.
Yeah, I mean, point by point, I have to reject some of those things. I mean, we all read the Twitter files, and we saw that both parties made requests for things to be taken off Twitter, and Twitter oftentimes on both sides said no fairly evenly when it was run by the Liberals. Now,
not fairly evenly.
Well, you can disagree with that. However, it pales in comparison to what Elon Musk has turned into now. He's turned a public company private, and I mean, you were on Twitter during the election cycle. Tell me that's not a Republican. I mean, I love Trump. He's a funny guy, but Twitter was absolutely a Republican propaganda machine.
Yeah. Look, we'll nip that there, because we could create an entire other series, I think, about this. Lee, who is your Villain of the Year nominee?
I had 4 on my list, and it was really quite difficult. But
I asked you for 1. I mean, come on, man. Go on, run through your 4.
My 4 were Sadiq Khan, Rachel Reeves, Ed Miliband, and Keir Starmer. And I've had
just put Labour, just Labour.
Pretty much, yeah. The reason I have gone for Keir Starmer is purely because of his seniority. I think genuinely you probably could pick any of these people, but I have to give it to Keir Starmer because he's the one who is in charge. He's the one who has appointed these people, and you know, since day one, it's been very clear that this is a man who is possibly the biggest hypocrite that UK politics has ever seen. And, you know, we can start off, I won't go through the whole lot because I'll be here for an hour. We've got lots of fun to have, I'm sure, in this. But, you know, just to very quickly remind everyone about the freebies scandal with Lord Ali, when we had the summer riots. The way he handled those summer riots was an absolute disgrace. He labelled lots of people, you know, there were lots of people out during the summer riots, without a doubt, that were out there to cause trouble, and they should be rightly punished for what they've done. But he labelled a whole bunch of people who were hurting as far right, people who were basically just wanted the government to keep our kids safe after what happened to those 3 beautiful girls. I don't want to bring the tone down too much, but it really got me, that one. But yeah, Keir Starmer has to get it for me. He has to be the biggest villain purely because he is in charge. He is the boss. But you could quite easily give it to Miliband. That guy is destroying the country. Rachel Reeves is destroying our economy. Sadiq Khan is destroying London. Well,
I mean, all 4 are worthy nominees. I mean, does anyone know what Lord Ali got Keir Starmer for Christmas? I mean, what do you get someone who you've got everything else already?
No, I'd probably never find out. He won't declare.
Well, yeah, that would be something to find out.
Office supplies. It'll be office supplies.
Yeah, I need some office supplies in the form of new suits, please, Lord Ali. No, good nominees. I like them. Elbowing 4 in 1 there. Stephen, who is your Villain of the Year nominee or nominees?
Well, as you know, I like proper arguments and well-constructed arguments. So actually, I defer to Lee's. I think Lee should win this because he's right that ultimate responsibility lies with Keir. But on a human level, I am going to say Rachel Reeves because, and it probably isn't the most. So let's take the fact that Anita's mum is on the basic state pension and now won't get it. These are real people who are going to really suffer. I actually cannot believe, and this is, I've got mates who are lifelong Labour voters. They can't believe that they would take away the pension credit. When lunatics in the Conservative Party talked about doing it, they were always told you won't save enough money, just a means test, it will cost X. The only real wealthy pensioners, very few wealthy pensioners, most of the wealthy pensioners I know gave it away to charity anyway. But, they didn't just sit there going, ha, 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 more money. But the idea is that the whole thing was never going to work anyway. But to means test it at the lowest possible level, to make sure that recipients of the basic state pension, and that's all they've got, and they don't get a winter fuel payment. I literally can't believe that a Labour government would do it. And I feel like Neil Kinnock in the 80s, just going, a Labour government, a Labour council. That's what he said, isn't it? But, just insane. I cannot believe that they would do this. This is statism. This is vindictive. It's cruel. It's going to save no money. It's going to kill old people. She did do it, so she is responsible. Keir Starmer, I accept the merit of Lee's argument that Keir Starmer is.
He would have signed it off.
Yeah, he'd signed it off. Damn cabinet.
Yeah, a worthy nomination.
Well, we know the award for the best Neil Kinnock impression goes to Stephen. Look, these are 3 very good nominations. I mean, 7 if you include all of Lee's. I would have nominated my best friend Sadiq Khan, Sir Sadiq Khan. Let's get that very clear. I would have nominated him for services to destroying London. So on that Labour theme, I think I'm going to sort of merge the Stephen and Lee nominees and just nominate Labour and nominate all of them for their services to destroying this once great country, which, given the first 100 days was so pitiful. And I mean, Keir Starmer's approval rating is -61 at the moment. What was it? Things can only go up?
There was one good guy, wasn't there? There was a good male Labour MP who voted against the winter fuel.
One.
He is a hero. I like him.
What we need...
And Rosie Duffield left the party. So I like that.
What we need next year is we need more Labour MPs willing to start standing up. Because as long as they have this humongous majority of people who will do what they're told, then, this country is going to go down the pan. We need Labour MPs to start, standing up. So if they don't want to be the villains of the year next year, start standing up and they could be the hero of the year. But I'm giving villain of the year to all the Labour lot. Congratulations to all of you.
Well, on that point, it looks like there might be a bit of a fractioning in the Labour MPs now that Jeremy Corbyn seems to be starting a new party.
A new party, yes.
So we'll see how many of the more rabid lot will stick with the mainstream Labour.
Yeah, because they've never really liked him. I mean, soon as even before he was elected, you had the Owen Jones kind of groupies and the far left. They've always hated him, but they kept their mouths shut. I noticed. For the early days, because obviously they were just so pleased to get the Conservatives out, and it didn't take a few minutes, and the fractures are already showing without a doubt. Wes Streeting was already on manoeuvres. He's going around the parliamentary bars, buying everyone drinks, buttering everyone.
I mean, I retweeted Wes Streeting the other day saying, Keir Starmer takes decisive actions, and that's why I'm proud to support him. I said, Wes, you're the one who's plotting. It's literally knives at the ready. But I mean, Keir Starmer's no Julius Caesar. So anyway.
I want Angela Rayner to take over, so their demise will be even quicker.
Diane Abbott, that would be the best leader, surely.
I want to know where old school, respectable Labour has gone. Proper working class people who read books and thought and tried to look after and improve the lives of ordinary people. And this is why they're fracturing. They don't seem to have any connection to ordinary people. There seems to be 2 factions in Labour. The mad upper middle class elites who just, want to preserve the state. And then the far left. Well, where's the ordinary left gone? There used to be normal ones. Where are they?
Let's put a New Year appeal out. If you know any ordinary left Labour politician, let us know, because we can't find them anywhere.
They're all going to reform.
This is a paid political advert for reform at this rate, Lee. Crikey. Best political moment that destroyed, ruined, or just showed the state of someone's career. This was a bit of an interesting one when I came up with it, because we could have just done the best moment of the year. But then also wanted to open the door for also that moment that showed, you know, that's the end of it. For me, and I'll start this one first to give you a bit of time. I think it's that moment Joe Biden stumbled up, down, left and right the stairs. It was just that moment of, Joe, this is it. I'm sorry. And for him to tweet the other day that he would have won the US election, I mean, I don't think he would have made it to the end of the US election, given how grueling the campaign is. So that's an example, but I want to hear from you guys. I'm going to change up the order this time and come to you first, Lee.
Oh, well, for this one, I have picked, it's more of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek funny one, although it is, in fairness, actually quite relevant. I've gone for Rory Stewart. Purely because of what was put in brackets after you put best political moment, and then you put that destroyed, ruined, or just showed the state of someone's career, right? So because of that last bit that was in brackets, for me it had to be Rory Stewart. So let me just read you the tweet. So or post, I should say, on X. He's put, Kamala Harris will win comfortably because, and he's thought this through. He's put a lot of thought into this. Biden admin has been solid. Trump lost ground since 2016. The young black male votes, which Trump needs, didn't turn out in 16, 18, 20 or 22. And young women like Kamala plus vote. Ignore the polls, people. They're herding after past misses. And it got even better. Obviously, after we saw how catastrophically wrong he was. I mean, most people knew he was wrong anyway. Before it even happened. I mean, I don't want to be, I'm sure a lot of people thought this, not just me. I kind of knew Trump was going to win that election because of various different reasons. I thought it was quite obvious to me that he was going to win. I put a bet on, I won that bet. I put a bet on Trump winning the first time he ran, and I won that bet too. I admit I did bet on him beating Biden and I lost that one, but then they stole the election. So what can you say? Joking. But yeah, and then it got worse. So for me, it kind of solidified how ridiculous this man is. So how out of touch he was when he gave the reasons as to why he got it so wrong, and it was because he was just too optimistic. So has nothing
going with your betting track record. Then who's going to win the 2029 general election?
Oh, goodness me. Okay. All right. I'll give you my best case scenario will be Reform will be the largest party and they'll be propped up by the Conservatives. Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister. You've heard it here first. Wow. That is going to be the first debate of 2025. That is the killer prediction. My God. The political landscape is different now. This is what a lot of old school commentators are really not taking into account. They still think that you can't win under first past the post. And I've said this from start. I'm not a huge fan of PR. You can win under first past the post. There's a lot of work to do, but Reform are putting in that groundwork now as we speak. They've got 4.5 years to get there. I see a political earthquake coming. I really do. I think the old school thinking that people are very tribal with the way that they vote, that still happens. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen now time after time in the polling and the research that's been done by various political analysts, both on the left and on the right, people are not, they're much more willing to vote for a different party than they used to. So things are different. The social media is helping. Reform's marketing is incredible. And I really do think that there's a lot to be said about them taking the red wall. They're really attacking Labour. I think we're in for a big surprise coming at 2029.
And it is going to be an interesting 4.5 years because we have every other type of election before we get to the general election. So there's an opportunity for anyone to pick up constantly throughout to the next general election. And at the moment, it looks like Reform are in that prime seat. I mean, we will have to see what happens, and obviously we'll be keeping an eye on that and doing as many more discussions as we can.
One more thing very quickly. We had the MRP poll that even if it was just done like today, they would go up to what did they say, about 75?
70 something, yeah. And then you have a Conservative Reform government, or you have a Labour rainbow of everyone else government. Politics is up for the grabs now. People are floating voters.
Keir Starmer won't lead Labour into the next election. And Labour are going to hemorrhage votes to Reform.
Well, on that sunny note, who is your best political moment that destroyed, ruined, or just showed the state of someone's career to Gabriele?
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because it's a year where a lot has happened. I mean, we've had two massive elections, one in the US and one in the UK. I would say instinctively one of those have to be like the big ones. In the US, obviously Trump coming in for a second non-consecutive term. That was very impressive. But then with the UK election, what's happened with reform? I mean, I need to challenge Lee on a lot of his points. I mean, does he seriously think that Nigel Farage is going to be the next prime minister? I mean, he can be the president, I guess, of his private company, you know, but
You mean his registered political party
well,
that won 4.5 million votes in the last election? You mean that one, that private company?
yeah, the one with I think how many seats do they have? 5? Well done.
Well, considering that they weren't expected to get any, I think that's a massive achievement. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, the exit poll had them at 14.
Sorry, was that aimed at me?
Yeah, no, the exit poll on the night of July the 4th had them winning 14 seats.
Well, I think that was the exit poll, but I mean, all the way up, we had MPs and other political commentators saying that they wouldn't even get 5. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think they would. I didn't think they would get that many. But no, I mean, I think that was the exit poll was probably the reality of what was happening starting to sink through to the establishment polling companies. They start to understand what's actually happening. So yeah, I mean, look, they came second in 98 seats, some of them incredibly close. That's why I still believe that they can win. I mean, that's not something to be sniffed at. So yeah, I think that they could end up being the largest party at the next election. They'll get first dibs on trying to form a government. I cannot see for 1 minute that the Conservatives will go, nah, we're not going to do that. Let's just let Labour form a rainbow coalition. Rainbow coalition. That's not going to happen. So if Reform do turn out to be the largest party, don't get me wrong, I think there is also a very high chance that it could be slightly different, that the Conservatives are able to be the largest party but cannot form a government. And I do believe, despite what Reform are saying, that they will do a deal for the same reasons. They will not want another Labour government, and they will do a deal. You'll have Nigel Farage's deputy PM or something like that. Rupert Lowe as having taken a senior cabinet minister position. So yeah, I can see it happening in reverse. Maybe I'm sort of more saying what I want to happen, but I honestly believe that the pundits have got it wrong. They are not understanding the new political landscape that we live in, and they're still stuck in the past. And I don't think anyone or any previous election has been impacted as much as social media, and the way that is also changing. All of their previous measurements on how they do these things are all completely useless now. We're in completely uncharted territory. So yeah, mark my words, something big is going to be happening at the next UK election.
Bookmark this post. That's what I'll say. Bookmark this video and we'll see what happens. But Gabriele, coming back to you. So your best political moment, you're going for a genuine best political moment of Trump 2.0, coming back, second presidential term, non-successive, the second person ever in US history to do that. That is your best political moment.
Yeah, that has to be. I mean, yeah, it's only happened twice. And I think it's really impressive. I mean, even though this guy does a bit of constitutionally questionable things sometimes, I mean, he's a funny guy and it looks like the American people want this guy to be their leader. So we'll see what happens, but I think that has to be the most impressive thing I've seen this year.
And I know we've discussed this before about the fact that we're going to enter now 4 years of pure presidential power over in America. I mean, the Republicans have control of everything. The Senate, House of Representatives, White House, and obviously the Supreme Court as well. So whatever they want, they're going to pretty much get, isn't it? Well,
not only that, but Trump is, with his cabinet picks and with his picks in the executive, he's clearly consolidating power with MAGA loyalists rather than establishment Republicans or people that will do the job well. I'm not saying that his picks won't do the job well, but it looks to me like they have more loyalty to him than they do to the Constitution. And remember what happened in 2020. Mike Pence, because of his loyalty to the Constitution over his loyalty to Trump, was the only one that stopped Trump from successfully coupping the government, which is a point to note.
Well, over to our man who's the expert on constitution, it feels like. Stephen, not only to respond to that, but who is your best political moment that destroyed, ruined, or just showed the state of someone's career?
Oh, no, I don't do the American Constitution. I leave them to their own nonsense. I just do ours. On ours, could I point out that we have this really lazy assumption that the next general election is going to be in 2029?
Why not?
Exactly. It can be earlier. It really can, and many times. So the legal framework has changed. It's not compelled to. Well, just stuff.
He could do it tomorrow.
Avoid events. And so I'm not saying it definitely will be before 2029, because that again would be wrong. But it really grates with me as a nerd that we just assume it will be, and it might not be. It might be sooner. But Lee actually picked my career-ending disaster, or I hope it does.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With Rory Stewart. But I'll go with the same point, which was Emily Maitlis's meltdown on the night Trump won.
Yes.
Because again, what we're living through is they've had, ever since the mid-90s, and I call it 90s thinking, and you're going to see me on the telly talking about 90s thinking a lot more. It's just a phrase I'm going to keep banging on about. They've known how that they've had certainties of belief, right? The certainty of belief that if you want to win a general election as a Labour government, you should adopt Tory policies and look like a Tory. The certainty of belief that if you want to win a general election as a Tory government, you should adopt Labour policies and sound more loving and caring. And it's what they've believed. Like George Osborne absolutely believes this in his core. Peter Mandelson absolutely believes this in his core. Keir Starmer believes it in his core. Emily Maitlis believes it in her core. Rory Stewart believes it in their core, because they're sensible and they know that's how it's all done. And it's so delicious to watch that just go. Just gone. Out the window it went. And it sort of went in 2016 with Brexit, which is why they had such a colossal meltdown, when that was far more interesting than staying in or leaving the EU, if you ask me. But it certainly happened when Trump didn't beat Hillary Clinton, despite the fact she was a woman. So of course she will win, because, and it's not working now when we have our first ever incompetent female chancellor. And what matters to us as the public, and I'm just nominated for worst person of the year, but what matters to us as the public is her ability to do her job, and the fact that she can't. And it doesn't really matter to us whether she's a woman or not. We don't care. And this whole style of politics, this whole identity politics led, this form over substance, you don't need to deal with the detail. You can only really do it when your country works. And our country's falling apart. That's why this is all happening. But they want to live in SW1. They live in a bubble where they genuinely think everything was absolutely fine and it will be perfectly everyone will carry on. And it's just madness. I'm afraid it's a form of collective insanity, but it's watching Emily Maitlis just have a meltdown on telly, say words that she would have got somebody else cancelled for, because she did swear, and she's of that ilk.
Yeah. And all because Boris saw the opportunity on a night that they had invited him on, and they weren't listening to anything he said. He just went, right, I'm going to plug my book as many times as I can.
It's just been funny.
It was just fantastic. Look, right. Best political moment of the year. I think in the end, we've all sort of gone around with, it's nothing to do with here in the UK. It's to do with what's happening over there with Rory Stewart, with Emily Maitlis, with Trump 2.0. I think I'm going to give everyone a point for that one. You're all going to win that one. It's New Year anyway, so let's be nice. So congratulations to all of you.
Yeah. I agreed with both of the other nominations. Brilliant nominations.
And the final award for our Votewatch End of Year Awards is the Stay in 2024 award. This is for someone who frankly needs to be forgotten about and never to return in 2025. This is going to be an interesting one. Let's come to Gabriele. Who is your Stay in 2024 award winner?
Nigel Farage and the Reform Party.
And why?
They've done enough damage to the Conservatives already. If they want to start attacking Labour like they're supposed to be doing as a right-leaning party, they can do that. Or they can come up with some serious policies. They're an unserious party. What's their economic policy? no immigrants. What's their housing policy? No immigrants. So I mean, what can we do with that? If they want to come up with some serious policies, and actually have a diagnosis, a proper diagnosis for the problems in the UK, and then we can come up with a responsible solution. They can help the Conservatives do that. But if they want to go into 2025 still bickering and fighting with the Conservatives and stealing all our yummy voters, then they can stay in 2024.
Lee, I'll give you 30 seconds to do your worst. Go on. It's Christmas.
It's just so entitled. I mean, the Conservative Party, I was a staunch Conservative supporter. I have been a paid-up member for years. Now, the straw that broke the camel's back for me, well, there's multiple things, but the straw that broke the camel's back for me, the one that really got me the most, because I just could not forgive it, was the constant lies about reducing migration. Now, I was a big Boris supporter, and I, part of me still is a little bit, because of how he was able to sort of get Brexit just about over the line by fluffing it a little bit, I admit. But this is a man who promised in his 2019 manifesto that he would increase the skill level and reduce the numbers. Those are his words, supported by Priti Patel, and as I said, written into their manifesto. What did he do? The moment that man got into office, he lowered the salary threshold and opened the floodgates. He blatantly lied. And when you were sort of having a pop at Reform about, oh, they always say immigration, they haven't got an economic policy, they'll just say it's down to the housing crisis is immigration. Well, I'm sorry, a lot of the problems that we are facing today are a result of mass uncontrolled migration. Of course, it's not the complete answer. And this is one thing I will say over and over again about Reform, because it's true. Reform do not have all the answers yet, but they are the only political party that are asking the right questions. And honestly, the arrogance and entitlement of the Conservatives to think that they are the ones that are born to rule, I'm sorry, but those days are now over. And I want to see honestly, in a perfect world, I'd like to see a more reform-friendly Conservative Party. I want to see the right united, and I want to see them go into the next election, possibly working together with some sort of deal. If not, Reform beating them outright, because they damn well deserve to be obliterated.
I was just going to come back to you on that and say, isn't that ultimately what we need? We need and I know the words are both opposites, but a Conservative Reform unity party. We need them to work together so that you have one united right-wing voice, where you can have the Suella Bravermans and the Lee Andersons, along with the Tom Tugendhats and the middle.
That is the problem, right? Very quickly on this. The problem that I have with the Conservatives at the moment, and it's brilliantly described as Nigel Farage, is they're a broad church without a religion. It doesn't matter what... I love Robert Jerrick. I think he's great. But it doesn't matter if he stands up and says we are going to leave the ECHR. Just like we saw over Brexit, the party's just going to disintegrate. They're just going to infight. They can't get anything done. And this is why I quite like Reform, because Reform are focused. I have absolutely no doubt there won't be any arguments with any MPs within Reform. Only 5 of them at the moment, I do appreciate. But that and the members, with anyone saying, having an argument about whether we need to leave the ECHR or not, for example, they will have a very focused decision-making process. The Conservatives just cannot get anything done. It's just fact.
I'll come very briefly back to you, Gabriele, and then we're heading over to you, Stephen. I mean, currently it's all just campaign slogans. There's no substantial material on which we can work with them on. I mean, you say we should work together, form like a united right-wing coalition. There's nothing of substance there.
There's nothing of substance from Kelly Badenoch.
Okay. Well, apart from the fact that we all shouldn't be having sandwiches. But anyways, Stephen, who is your stay in 2024 award? And if you want to have a say on what's just been going on between our other two friends, and we've just been sitting in the background watching the pieces.
Well, I also hate sandwiches, so I'm pretty on that. And when I'm in town or whatever, I always try and because we used to work in London a lot more. Every lives have changed and all the rest of it. Of course, are much more online. But I always used to insist on having something hot, even if I only had 10, 20 minutes. I want something hot. I don't want a sandwich. And so I'm pretty anti-sandwiches, and I'm not going to criticize Kemi for that. I have to say to Gabriele that politics is the art of the possible, not the art of I really hope this happens. Nigel Farage is going nowhere. There's no greater political. I mean, he's a power horse. He's going nowhere. So come up with a Nigel plan by all means, but just wishing him away, I'm afraid that isn't going to work. In terms of what needs to stay in 2024 and not come with us, it's everything we've talked about. It's everybody who believes in 1990s thinking. It's everybody, and I'll name them across the spectrum. So it is Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt. It is George Osborne. It is Tony Blair. It is Peter Mandelson. It is Nick Bowles, who's just done a most ridiculous article for The Spectator, which somehow pretends that Starmer's competent. So obviously just an attempt to get a free job. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Just add some balance, maybe.
It's just insane. There's just this ridiculous idea that, we can all just adopt this terribly socially liberal mantra and our country will somehow be fine because it's okay. Our country's in a really bad state. And if you don't want the answer to that to be Nigel Farage, then other people need to step up and go, do you know what? Everything's broken. No one can get a GP. No one can get an NHS dentist. The schools are full. The roads don't work and are full of holes. It's just, everything is breaking. There's no policeman anywhere. We can all see crime every day. I mean, we must all now, I wonder if all of us on this call, we all watch shoplifting. I've watched it. I've just stood there. And I've been told, because I get quite old school, so I was like, I was filming them and I was like, I'm going to go after them. And the shopkeeper was like, no, don't bother. Don't put yourself at risk. Don't want to. And because I was with my child, I gave in. But I mean, this is just ridiculous. We cannot live this way. This is not a way to live. We will either collapse, as the Weimar Republic did, into an angry little shouty man, or we go back to democracy and making it work, which means we'll have to have ministers who are capable human beings there on merit, not on the basis of their genitalia or anything else. Thank you. That can all go. That can stay in the 2024. Go away. Don't care anymore. Go away. We need to have human beings of merit in positions of power who can genuinely wield power outside of an overly complicated legal system, which hopefully somebody will ask me to hack apart. And I would honestly help anybody do it, because we're going to be like open heart surgery, because you don't want to delete the law against murder. Trust me, that will not. No, Minister, I think it might end quite poorly. But at the same time, you have to delete vast quantities of law. So it's going to be very, very tricky to do. And that's why I offer to help anybody. I've been told by this government that they do not want my help. That is fine. That is their choice. But it means they're not going to.
Their loss.
Well, there we go. I mean, Stephen, using Lee's analogy there of just chucking tons of people in instead of one, throwing in all of the 90s thinking lot. Gabriele, did you want to come back on that? I saw you raising your hand. Was that you volunteering?
I don't know. The country isn't falling apart, okay? And even if it was, Reform wouldn't be able to do anything about it. As with any populist party, they talk a big talk, but they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. They would realize, actually, government is really hard. And only
the Conservatives are capable of doing it. We are so entitled.
One member of the Conservative Party thought, you know what? I'll just do that one-line slogan that Reform have been saying. I'll just do that and then fix all our problems. No one has thought of that in the past. No, well, that's the problem. They'll come in, if they do, say tomorrow, magically Reform comes into power, they'll suddenly realize they can't do a lot of things they want to do. The things that they do won't fix anything, and they'll probably make things a lot worse.
I'm genuinely not convinced the government is terribly hard, nor do I think it should be. If you want to have a healthy economy, you need your best brains in the private sector. So actually, you should make government simplistic and easy to do. There's no inherent reason why it needs to be complicated. And one of the main problems we have at the moment is far too much law, which is making things far too complicated, which means the civil servants don't understand what they're doing. So they're giving bad advice to ministers, and the ministers don't understand what they're doing.
Don't even with the civil service. That would be my nomination. Just the civil service, right. All of the 22 billion black hole, all of this, it was this and that, and the pointing the finger and my God, actually, I'm going to use my position once as a host to overrule all of you and just give whatever I want the award here, because I haven't
fed
up.
mine yet.
Yeah, true. We haven't even. Right, go on, Lee. Before I explode into the £22 billion black hole, what is your stay in 2024 award?
Mine feels really pathetic now compared to Stephen's, who I immediately want to vote for now. However, I was going to say, considering for someone I want to just be completely forgotten about, Justin Welby.
To be fair, there's no more that needs to be said there, is there?
We know exactly why. This is a man then who got up to apologise and then had to apologise for his apology.
That was awful.
It was horrific.
Awful.
Horrific.
That was the
just loathing. Just everyone.
Genuinely, when I think of Justin Welby now, it was the service about the NHS being a religion on the NHS's birthday, and it's the heads must roll and so it shall be my head. I just thought, how out of touch can you be as someone who's
overtly political on everything? You know, what did he say? Brexit. God wouldn't have approved of Brexit or something like that. I just think
God clearly didn't vote leave.
Or something like that. I just the man. I'm so glad he's gone, and I hope that he never is, like you say. I hope he's forgotten about and never returns.
Well, you know, I don't know what do you do after being the Archbishop of Canterbury? Is like. What do you do in your life? Is there like a weekly meetup that they have, or former? Well, I presume you die.
You're asking for what do decent human beings do, or what will Justin Welby do? Because I think there's a real distinction between those two outcomes. I just think
Justin Welby around the UK saying
he get billions in reparations as well. You know, this is
oh yes, yeah, no, right. You've given me a chance to calm down now, but I'm about to bubble up again. I am going to overrule you all and just put the following: £22 billion black hole, reparations, they did it. It wasn't us. All of these sorts of slogans. I think, Stephen, it's a bit of what you were saying as well. Just all of this, how politics has always been. All the, you know, it can't, like, I'm just fed up of everything being explained by the same few words. Like, just genuinely say, this is broken, and we don't know how we're going to fix, but we're going to find a way. Like, genuinely just be honest with the public. Don't take us for fools. I think that's what people are so fed up with. I think that's why, you know, granted, I think that's why Reform are actually doing really, really well, gaining people's frustrations and seeing those common sense. You know, I agree with you, Gabriele, about maybe a lot of it is slogans. We need to see the detail. This is what next year is going to be all about. But in 2024, all it has been is the first few months were, when are we going to have the election? Then we had the election. It's been, why did we have the election? And ever since then, it's been, oh, well, everything before the election. But I'm fed up. And whether it's a £22 billion black hole, £1 billion black hole, £50 billion black hole, it makes no difference. Because every metric that you look at Labour, their sums don't add up either. They went to the School of Mathematics by Diane Abbott. It just makes no sense. So I think in a way, I'm sort of giving that to Stephen, but I'm also sort of giving it to myself and just giving it to the British public who are just fed up and just want a bit of a break from politics. And I hope that's what Christmas and New Year has been. So I guess it's Stephen and the British public who get that one.
It's a good choice. Good choice.
But look, guys, I want to say a massive thank you, obviously. 2024 has been an absolutely bumper year. We have seen Votewatch come back again, relaunch, and is now growing and growing every single day. What is your... I haven't asked any of you to prep this, so good luck. What's your New Year's resolution, and what's your memory of 2024? So for me, I would have to say it is what we were doing in Harrow East with Bob Blackman's campaign. I was his campaign manager, and we doubled the majority and made it the safest seat in the country for the Conservatives when everything told us we were going to lose. That's my highlight of the year. And my resolution for next year is to keep growing all of this, to bring people like us together with similar mindsets and to thrash it out. Because, as Stephen said, everything seems to be bloody falling apart. So that's my two. Gabriele, what's your memory of the year and what's your resolution for next year? Sorry to put you all on the spot as well. I didn't brief anyone before this.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. It's difficult to look forward to resolutions now that everything's been rejigged. The leadership election, we have a new leader. Um, Speaking as from a conservative perspective, it's difficult to say what's going to happen. I guess the resolution will be keep getting on those doorsteps. We have council elections coming up. We need to be doing work. In the meantime, I don't know when the next general election is going to be. Hopefully Stephen's right and it's going to be sooner than 2029. But yeah, just get out there.
No, brilliant. And Stephen, what's your 2024 memory and 2025 resolution?
So my child was selected to place the British Legion wreath at
Oh,
the
wow.
local war memorial, just a little village, but the local war memorial, and watching my child just walk down. The British Legion always goes first in the order of importance. So watching your child just go, and you're sort of stood back and like, what do I do? And and that's my main memory of this. I think I am at heart quite a hobbit and quite a civic nationalist. And Remembrance Sunday, one of the best things I always say about moving out of London is that it's taken very seriously here. I mean, Buckinghamshire takes it incredibly seriously. And in London, it felt, I don't mean to slag off London, but it felt as though people didn't really take it that seriously. Whereas here, it is a very big deal. I mean, this is a tiny village, and I think there were 200-300 people. It was a big thing, and it was raining. But that's what you do, and that sense that that's what you do is my takeaway. And watching my child do it for the first time, I'm very proud daddy. In terms of what I'm going to do, my resolution is that I've got my new Substack, so I'm going to keep promoting, keep producing content for my Substack. That's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm teaching people about the Constitution. I'm going to find other things to teach them about and make sure that everybody understands the law. That way, no one can be hoodwinked by these shysters who tell you that things are too complicated and you couldn't possibly understand them. You can. We all can. It's only made by man. Okay? We can understand everything.
Oh, he's frozen.
Is he frozen? Oh, quick, steal the show.
Well, look, the internet's clearly telling us to wrap this up. So, Lee, over to you quickly for your 2024. For what's your 2025 resolution?
Oh, on a personal level, I need to start going to bed at regular times and make sure my biological clock is more stable, because I am absolutely terrible. I run my own business. I end up working really silly hours. So on a personal level, that and doing a bit more exercise. On a kind of career level or hobby level, I've been really wanting to start my own podcast for a long time, and I just haven't had the time and trouble to do it. So my New Year's resolution is to possibly do something like that, just to keep things going a little bit. And my standout moment probably for the year was the two elections we had. Well, it wasn't this year. We had the American election. Just from a political level, I absolutely love that. Probably like everyone on this podcast who stayed up all night to watch it. I absolutely loved it, and seeing Trump win was phenomenal for the exact reasons we've been saying. That was a great moment. And probably for the exact opposite reasons, a big moment was the idiotic decision of Rishi Sunak to call the election and just hand it all over to Labour. He should have waited, but we are where we are. Those are two big moments.
Well, we're going to be listening to Lee more in 2025, it sounds like. Is that the name? What's the name of the podcast? There's a freebie for you.
I have actually come up with a couple. I was thinking about using a like Latin, Latin twang to the name, like Vox Populi or so. But it's trying to find something that isn't already being used, and whether anyone's even going to bother watching it, to be honest. But it's just having the bottle to do it is. I just need to find the courage.
Just ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, I have. I have. ChatGPT's given me a whole load of lists. There's some really good ones out there, but it's finding people to having the courage to ask them. I've got a few people that owe me some favors, so yeah, hopefully get a few people on. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What mood I'm in.
Well, look, Thank you to all three of you, and thank you to everyone who's obviously been watching along. A very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year to all of you. We'll come back in 2025 with plenty more. I think we're going to get Lee and Gabriele head-to-head on each other. That would be fantastic. Stephen, absolutely wonderful to speak to you. Lee as well, Gabriele too. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. See you next year.